So hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Lowell, and I'm the Policy Director for the Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams. On behalf of the Borough President, I want to welcome everyone to tonight's Know Your Rights workshop with the New York Immigration Coalition. We're happy to partner with the New York Immigration Coalition and bring you this event. We know how important up-to-date information is to the immigrant community in New York City, and we also know that information can change based on who's in the office, who's in political office, both in the city, in Albany, and in Washington, D.C. So we want to make sure we're bringing you up-to-date information. So happy to be here tonight. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. If you would prefer to have this workshop in Spanish or know somebody who would benefit from having it in Spanish, we are having this exact same presentation on March 11th at 4 p.m. In Spanish. I put the link in the chat at the very top of the chat. You can register or share that with anyone you think might want to register. Also, at the end of this presentation, I'll be sending out a survey from the New York Immigration Coalition and the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. I'll send it to the email that you registered with, so please keep an eye out for that. If you registered in the last 2 hours, please send me your email and a message in the chat so I can add you to the list, because I downloaded the list a couple hours ago. So the survey is really helpful to NYIC and the Mayor's Office. So please take a moment to fill it out and send it back to me. And I think without any further ado, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to introduce you to Stephanie Ngui from the New York Immigration Coalition to give you an overview of the program. Stephanie?
Thank you for having me, Jeff. So I'm just going to screen share. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to welcome everyone. Hi, everyone, welcome, and thank you for letting me join today. And we'll be learning about your rights as immigrants in New York City. My name is Stephanie, and I'm a member of the community engagement team here at the NYIC. So New York Immigration Coalition, right now we're working in collaboration with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs to hold these Know Your Rights workshops. So before we get started, I just want to make it clear that I'm not a lawyer, and this presentation is to only serve as an education guide to help you learn about your rights as immigrants in New York City and some of the services that are available to you. It's not meant to serve as any legal advice. So today we'll learn about your rights as immigrants in New York City. Our objectives or goals for today are as follows. So first, it's to learn about the recent changes to federal immigration policy. Second, is to learn how to identify and interact with federal immigration officers. Third, to learn how to access free and safe legal services and resources, as well as lastly, to learn about COVID-19 treatment and testing. So there are some terms that are important for us to know since they'll come up a lot in the presentation and will be useful when dealing with these issues. So we're going to go through all of these terms individually and what they mean. Our first term is Department of Homeland Security, or DHS for short. So DHS is the federal agency that oversees immigration matters. Next, we have ICE, or US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So ICE is a federal agency that's within DHS that enforces immigration laws. So next is a lawful permanent resident, or LPR for short, is a person that has been officially granted the rights to reside permanently in the US, which includes permissions to work. Sometimes LPRs are referred to as green card holders. So an undocumented person is someone without legal immigration status living in the US, including people who've simply overstayed their visa. Our next term is public areas. So a public area is a space where anyone can go. Examples of public areas include your retail stores like supermarket or convenience stores, a public library, a government building, or your street and sidewalks. Next, we have private areas. So a private area is a space that's generally not accessible by members of the public. So this can include your private property home or employees only area at a workplace. Lastly, we have warrants. So a warrant is an official document that gives government agents certain permissions. We'll discuss this further later on in the presentation. So in the recent 2+ years, there's been a lot of changes to federal immigration policy. They can happen quickly and can be confusing. So we're going to cover the most up-to-date information on some of the major policy changes. First, we have DACA, also known as Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So DACA is the federal immigration program that began in 2012 under President Obama and helps undocumented immigrants who came to the US when they were young. DACA provides eligible undocumented immigrants with temporary protection from deportation, as well as access to work authorization. As of December 7th, there was a recent court order that was made. The decision was made to restore DACA back to its original parameters in 2012. So this means that the program is now open to new applicants for the first time in over 3 years. Advanced parole applications will be accepted again, as well as any DACA recipient who was issued a 1-year EAD card and eligibility grant will have that converted into a 2-year grant and work permit. Litigation around DACA still continues to this day, so it is quite possible that there could be additional changes to the program. We recommend you to call 311 and say Action NYC for updates and immigration legal help. The next policy change we'll talk about is the travel ban. So the travel ban puts varying immigration restrictions on people from predominantly Muslim and African countries by barring visa issuance and/or entry into the US. Since taking office, President Biden has repealed the travel ban. His executive order allows for people who were previously banned from obtaining visas to apply for and go through the due process. It also enables those who were previously denied visas an opportunity to reapply or reopen their case with USCIS. If you're concerned about how the travel ban may affect you or your family, please call 311 and say Action NYC for free and safe immigration legal help. The third major policy change we're covering is TPS, also known as Temporary Protected Status. TPS allows for individuals from certain countries to remain in the US if it is unsafe for them to return back to their home country due to a humanitarian emergency there. So for example, the federal government may designate a country for TPS if there's an armed conflict, like a civil war, or a natural disaster, like an earthquake. TPS enables recipients to work in the US lawfully and protects them from deportation as long as the TPS designation is still in effect. So as of December 7th of 2020, DHS has extended TPS for the following 6 countries through October 4th of 2021: El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, and Sudan. If you or someone you know might need legal assistance, please call 311 and say Action NYC for city-funded free and safe immigration legal help. The fourth federal policy change is public charge. So the Trump administration had announced a rule change that may impact when a non-citizen is considered a public charge. This test only applies when someone is applying for their green card or if they're extending certain visas. When the test applies, federal immigration law allows for immigration officials to deny green cards and visas if they find that an applicant is likely to become a public charge. It is important to note that this rule came into effect on February 24th of 2020. This rule change does not change your eligibility requirements for public benefit programs. Getting care, treatment, or testing for COVID-19 will not make you a public charge. And getting charity or discounted medical care will not hurt your ability to apply for a green card. Immigrant New Yorkers who are concerned about changes to the public charge rule can get informed by speaking with a lawyer. So now moving on to ICE, a very important thing to know if you interact with ICE is that they're not your local police officers. So in this case, the NYPD. This is important because the NYPD will not conduct civil immigration enforcement. You can report a crime to the NYPD and they should not ask about your immigration status. You should also know that New York State police officers, the state troopers, will also not conduct civil immigration enforcement and will not ask for your immigration status. Sometimes ICE officers will wear uniforms that say police on them, so this can be confusing. Some ways that you can tell the difference between ICE and NYPD is by looking at their uniforms. So if you see at the pictures on your screen, NYPD uniforms will usually have a patch on their arm that says City of New York on it, while ICE uniforms will say a few words such as federal agent, police, police ICE, or ICE HSI. So another way that you can tell the difference is by looking at their badges. So NYPD badges will say City of New York on them, while ICE badges will typically say ICE, Special Agent, or US Department of Homeland Security. Some of the places where people may interact with ICE agents are at work, in public spaces, or their homes. It's important to know your rights in each of these areas. Whether or not a location is public or private determines if the federal agent needs permission to enter. There are also certain types of locations where ICE typically will not conduct civil immigration enforcement. These are called sensitive locations. Examples of sensitive locations include your schools, hospitals, religious institutions, and public ceremonies, such as weddings, public demonstrations, rallies, and funerals. It's important to know that this is only an ICE policy and can change at any time. So ICE has a number of investigative tools and databases that it uses to identify individuals who may be removable. They may know about people through a number of ways, such as people who have submitted an immigration application or have otherwise had interactions with the immigration system, such as at the border, or those who have been arrested and fingerprinted for a crime, and even for arrests that did not lead to a conviction. So ICE has broadened their scope of enforcement in the last couple of years. Nevertheless, the following groups of people are still a prime focus for arrest and removal: those with pending criminal cases or prior convictions, those with an order of removal from immigration court, those who have committed fraud or misrepresentation on their immigration applications, as well as those who they believe pose a threat to public safety or national security. So if ICE comes to your workplace or your home, they may present you a warrant. So a warrant is a document issued by a government official that gives law enforcement agents permission to do certain things. There are different types of warrants, and each one gives ICE permissions to do something specific. It's important to know what each warrant does and looks like. So the first one we have is the administrative warrant, also known as the ICE warrant. So an ICE warrant is addressed to federal immigration officers by their superiors at DHS and is used in civil immigration enforcement action. It is signed by an ICE officer and not a judge. An administrative warrant does not give the ICE the authority to demand entry to the private areas of a workplace or your home. The other type of warrant we have is the judicial warrant. So a judicial warrant is signed by a state or federal judge and gives ICE the permissions to enter the private areas that we spoke about earlier. So if the ICE agent does not have a judicial warrant, they'll need the permission expressed vocally or by action of a resident to enter the resident's home, or they'll need the express permission of the owner, manager, or supervisor to enter the private areas of a workplace. Judges have different ways of writing warrants, so they can look different depending on who wrote it. Some things you'll always find, however, are the name and signature of the judge, the name of the property they have permission to search, the date and time of the search, as well as the location of the courthouse. So if you are approached by federal immigration enforcement agents, such as ICE, please be aware that you have rights regardless of your immigration status. Whenever you interact with ICE, it is important to remember to always stay calm. You have the right to plead the Fifth Amendment, which is your right to remain silent. If you speak to ICE, anything you say can be used against you, as well as you can always record the situation on your phone if you do feel comfortable doing so. The agents there may tell you that you're not allowed to record them, but that's not true. People can report the ICE activity here at the numbers on your screen. So if ICE is at your door, you do not have to immediately open the door or speak to ICE. You have the right to remain silent. If you speak to ICE, anything you say can be used against you. So you can tell them, I do not want to talk to you right now. From behind closed doors, you may also ask them for their identification, for them to show you their badge or business card through the window or peephole. You can also ask ICE if they have a judicial warrant and for them to show you. If ICE agents do not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, they cannot legally enter your home without permission from an adult, except in emergency situations. If they do not have a judicial warrant, you may state that you do not consent to an entry or a search, but this does not mean you're allowed to physically resist their search. If ICE enters your home without your permission, you can tell them clearly, I do not consent to you being in my home, please leave. Saying this may not always stop them, but it may help you in future legal cases. If ICE starts to search your rooms or items in your home, you can tell them, I do not consent to your search. You can continue repeating this if they continue to search without consent. You can also tell them if there are any vulnerable residents or children in your home. ICE can enter the public spaces of any workplace without needing any type of warrant. Public spaces may include your office lobby, the supermarket, retail store, or dining area of a restaurant. ICE cannot legally enter the private spaces of a workplace unless they have permission from your employer or a judicial warrant. So private spaces are employee-only areas that may include your break room or storage room of a workplace. If approached by ICE at work, you do not have to answer their questions and can direct them to your employer. Your employer can then ask ICE to show their identification and ask ICE if they have a judicial warrant. So if ICE agents arrest someone in public, it typically happens quickly. They may call for your name out loud, ask for you to confirm it, and then detain you. So on the street or in public, you have the right to remain silent. Before responding with your name or anything else, you may ask, am I free to go? If they answer yes, then you can say, I do not want to answer your questions, and then walk away. If they say no, you can say, I want to use my right to not answer your questions, and then walk away. Or you can also ask to speak to a lawyer. If an ICE officer tries to search your pockets or your belongings, you can say, I do not consent to a search, but you may not physically resist their search. If you're being arrested by ICE, there are some things you should know. So the agents there may not be able to communicate with you in your language. If you speak to ICE, anything you say can be used against you. You may state that you wish to speak to an attorney before saying or signing anything. You can tell them if you have any underlying medical issues or need to arrange for childcare. You should never lie or give them false documents. You should not physically resist them. And if you're being detained, people in your community can film ICE so long as they do not interfere with the officers. The detention process can be confusing and immigration authorities may not walk you through everything. So it's important to know the following information. Again, the agents may not be able to communicate with you in your language. You have the right to speak to an attorney or may take the time to obtain one. If you're being detained, you have the right to call an attorney or family member. You have the right to be visited by an attorney in detention. You do not have to sign anything. You may ask to speak to an attorney before signing anything. You have the right to contact your consulate, as well as writing down the name and phone number of the deportation officer assigned to your case. So if your loved one is being detained by ICE and you do not know where they're being taken, you can find them by using the ICE locator, which is locator.ice.gov. To use this locator, you'll need your loved one's country of birth and a number, or their country of birth, first and last name, and date of birth. Each ICE facility has their own set of rules about visitation and sending money. You can look up visitation and other information here at ice.gov/detention-facilities. It's important to review each jail's requirements for identification and whether background checks are required. If you're worried about the risk of visiting a loved one, you should speak to an attorney. So a few ways that you can prepare for immigration enforcement action is by creating an emergency plan for you and your family in case you are detained or deported. Choose an emergency contact and memorize their phone number. So this should be someone you trust, including someone like your lawyer. Then you can also choose a standby guardian for your children. A standby guardian is a person you choose who will take care of your children when you cannot for up to 1 year. Making someone your standby guardian does not mean that you're giving up your legal rights as a parent. It only means that you're giving the guardian permissions to make certain decisions for your children when you cannot. To learn more about standby guardians, you can call the Action NYC hotline. Another way you can prepare is by getting a legal checkup to see if you're eligible for an immigration benefit and to learn more about your immigration options. Even if you have consulted with an immigration lawyer in the past, you may want to do so again in case something has changed. So get an immigration legal checkup if you have any concerns about your immigration status, would like to learn more about your eligibility, need help with an immigration application, or would just like to consult with a safe, free immigration legal services provider. If you would like to learn more about your rights as immigrant New Yorkers, you can call 311.
Stephanie, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Would you like to hit questions as they come in or wait till the end?
Can we wait till the end?
Sure, that's fine. I just wanted to, I'll keep track.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Moya provides legal services support through their constituent service line and Action NYC. Action NYC will connect you to free and safe immigration legal help in your New York City community. Action NYC provides free, comprehensive, and confidential legal screenings to determine eligibility for immigration benefits, including citizenship, green card applications and renewals, DACA, TPS, and more. So Action NYC's hotline is a toll-free live hotline that can connect you to immigration legal help and answer your questions. The hotline provides assistance in more than 200 languages. Call 1-800-354-0365 between the hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday to Friday, or simply call 311 and say Action NYC to be connected with a live operator to make an appointment. While it's important to get a legal screening to know the different types of relief you may be eligible for, it's also important to be cautious of the person or business you're discussing your immigration options with. Inappropriately filing an immigration application is not only a waste of your money, but may result in deportation. Immigration law is complicated, so beware of fraudulent immigration providers who may indicate otherwise and make false promises. Watch out for false promises such as an easy way to obtain your green card, a way to get a work permit or visa immediately, statements indicating that there are no risks or consequences, as well as claims of special influence with immigration authorities. Once you've found a legal representative, always ask questions, even if the provider was recommended to you by a family member or a friend. And remember the following. So only a lawyer or individual accredited by the DOJ can give you immigration legal advice. You can ask for proof of their bar license. Always get a second opinion. And in some countries, notary publics are like lawyers. However, that is not the case in the US. A notary public and other non-lawyers can only help you translate, photocopy, notarize, take your photo, and help get your documents. Only go to providers that have a physical location. Ask for a written agreement of services to be provided that is also signed by the provider. Do not pay for government application forms. They can be found online for free. Ask for a written receipt with the name and address of the provider. Keep all your original documents and copies of all documents submitted to the government, and never sign any blank or incomplete forms or anything you don't fully understand. To report immigration fraud, you can call the New Americans Hotline, which is 1-800-566-7636. So the New York State had passed a green light bill. So the Driver's License Access and Privacy Act is also known as the Green Light Bill, which allows for undocumented immigrants to get non-commercial driver's license and learner's permits after meeting identification and driving skill requirements. There are very strong privacy protections for information related to these licenses. Any party, including law enforcement agents, is prohibited from accessing records or information collected from driver's license or learner's permit applications and holders without a court order, judicial warrant, or subpoena issued in line with state law. The law went into effect on December 14th of 2019. All driver's license permits, non-driver identification cards, and vehicle registrations that expired March 1st of 2020 or after were extended and continue to be extended by executive order. In addition, the federal Real ID enforcement deadline has been extended until October 1st of 2021. Since the pandemic began, the DMV started offering many online services. For a list of online services, please visit their website. Here in New York City, there are several services and rights available to all New Yorkers, regardless of your status. Under the New York City law, specifically Executive Order 34, city services must be available to all immigrants as long as the immigrants meet the other eligibility requirements. That includes undocumented immigrants. In addition, under that same law, city employees cannot ask for your immigration status unless that information is necessary for them to provide the services. For instance, health insurance enrollers. So the mayor's office to protect tenants has created a hotline specifically to assist tenants. Call 311 and say tenant help if you need answers to questions on how to handle an eviction notice, help finding a free attorney to handle eviction proceedings, help understanding the state and federal law on eviction, guidance on how to handle landlord threats, harassment, or discrimination, and help looking for rental assistance and other public benefits. In addition, the city also runs the Home Base program, which provides a comprehensive range of services to low-income New Yorkers to support their long-term housing security. The Home Base providers will help you negotiate with the landlord, navigate the housing court system, find the right house that you can pay rent for, as well as do the financial planning for you to pay that rent. They will also, most importantly, help pay off the rent you're behind on if you're eligible for the grant, which is called the one-shot deal. While Home Base is only available to citizens and documented immigrants, identical services are also available to undocumented immigrants through FASTN, which is funded through private charities. If you're interested in applying for this program, you can visit their website and find a home base provider near you. The provider designation is based on your zip code. Or you can call 311 and say home base. All New Yorkers should get a COVID-19 test, whether or not they have symptoms or are at an increased risk. If you have already tested and were negative, you should still get another test if you're showing symptoms or are concerned of a possible exposure. The Test and Trace Corps is an initiative to stop COVID-19 infections in New York City and help the city open back up. If you test positive, you'll receive a call from a contact tracer who will ask if you need medical attention, help you arrange for isolation at home or at a free hotel, and create a list of everyone you had contact with since shortly before the onset of symptoms. If you test positive, the tracer will also help facilitate healthcare as well as mental health services and medication delivery. Free testing is available regardless of immigration status or whether you have insurance at the following locations. New York City Health and Hospitals operates multiple COVID-19 testing sites throughout the 5 boroughs. The location information can be found on their website. CityMD, through partnership with the New York City government, offers testing at all of its New York City sites on a walk-in basis, 7 days a week. Advantage Care Physicians has partnered with the New York State government to offer testing at 22 sites in New York City. For more information, visit nyc.gov/COVID-test. As important as it is to be able to access coronavirus testing, it is also critical that you can access healthcare services if you do get sick with COVID-19. First, if you have health insurance, it's important to remember that all health insurance plans must cover COVID-19 testing without any out-of-pocket payments. Second, New York State Emergency Medicaid covers COVID-19 testing and treatment without any out-of-pocket payments for low-income uninsured residents, including undocumented immigrants. If you want to sign up for emergency Medicaid in advance, contact New York City Department of Health Insurance Enrollers by visiting their website or calling 311 and say, "Get covered." Third, if you have disputes over the medical bills or just have questions about navigating the healthcare system, you can call the Community Health Advocates Hotline, which is at 888-614-5400, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. They also have a language line that can provide translation services in more than 170 languages. So currently in the US, there are 2 vaccines approved for use, Pfizer and Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson was just recently approved too. So both vaccines are safe and more than 94% effective in this case. You cannot get COVID-19 from these vaccines. And if you're concerned about getting the vaccine, you should speak to your doctor before getting it. The vaccines are free for all New Yorkers, regardless of your immigration status. Your privacy will be protected. New York State is expanding COVID-19 vaccine eligibility in phases to make sure that the most vulnerable people in our communities can get the vaccine first. We're currently in phase 1B expansion number 2, but most New Yorkers will likely not be able to get the vaccine until mid-2021. In our current phase, people with underlying medical conditions are now eligible. Conditions such as cancer, chronic kidney disease, pulmonary disease, heart conditions, obesity, pregnancy, sickle cell disease, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and liver disease. This is not the exhaustive list of people who are eligible for. For the complete list, please visit their website. To be eligible, you must either live or work in New York State. You must show proof of residency or employment. A letter from your employer, a driver's license, or ID NYC are all acceptable. So how do I get vaccinated? First, make sure that you are eligible. Second, make an appointment. So an appointment is required at all sites for Pfizer and Moderna. If you're eligible, you can make the appointment using vaccinefinder.nyc.gov or by calling 1-877-829-4692. Third, select your preferred site to see available appointments. Some sites can be booked directly online, while others need to be called. This is specified on the Vaccine Finder. Once you select your preferred site, fill out the required forms there, which may be different depending on which site you chose. And the appointment for your second dose of the vaccine will be scheduled after you receive your first dose, which is about a month after, and must be done at the same location. So that concludes our presentation for today. I just want to thank you all for listening. I will take your questions in a little bit, but first I want to do a little review of the information that was covered. So you can just type your answer in the chat if you think you know the answer. The first question is, if ICE agents do not have permission to enter the private spaces that we spoke about, what kind of warrant do they need?
Oh, we have a raised hand.
Yeah, do I have to unmute them?
Judicial warrant.
Yes, but what
Usually.
type of warrant?
Mm.
Oh, I thought she said judicial.
Oh,
Judicial.
okay, yeah. I didn't hear the judicial part, but yeah, that's correct. So the second question is, do you have the right to speak to an attorney before talking to ICE or signing any documents for ICE? So the answer is yes. You always have the right to speak to an attorney before doing anything. And the last question is, can you call 311 for details on any city services? Yes, so the answer is yes, you can always call 311. You can also call 311 and say Action NYC for legal services provider. Okay. So now I'll just open up the floor for questions.
Okay, we have, thank you, Stephanie. We have a couple in the chat, and I'm going to apologize for pronunciation, but Michalina. Is there a reason to be concerned if someone does not have fingerprints, a previous order of removal, committing fraud, etc.?
Can you repeat that question?
Is there a reason to be concerned if someone does not have fingerprints, a previous order of removal, committing fraud, etc.?
I don't quite understand that question. What are you referring to?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Michalina.
Mhm.
So just to elaborate a little bit, I know we talked about how usually the information on individuals comes out of a database. I can't talk today. With like previous arrest records, fingerprints, that sort of thing. But if somebody doesn't have any criminal past, should they be concerned of interactions with ICE as an undocumented individual?
Oh, if they have no interactions with the immigration system and have no prior arrests or convictions, then they're not a prime focus for arrest and removal. I don't know if that helps answer your question. Yeah, but it's no concern, really.
And then the follow-up was, what resources are still available to undocumented individuals, i.e. public benefits? I think you covered some of that. I don't know if we can bring the screen back up.
Let me see. We don't cover public benefits. Are you talking regarding like public charge rule?
No, I think it was when you said there's certain things that are available, like healthcare is available regardless of your documentation status.
Oh,
So I'm thinking about the HRA portal and how they have options all through one portal to apply for cash assistance, Medicaid, the one-shot deal, just any other services that are similar.
okay.
I thought there was a screen back when you were maybe right before the Action NYC information or around there.
I can pull up Action NYC's. If you want like the full exhaustive list of services that they can get, you can always call the hotline and then ask them.
And I put that hotline in the 800 number in the chat. And then I also put in a link to Brooklyn Borough Hall's Constituent Assistance Center. And they can certainly help connect you to resources if you go onto that's a link to the website. We have a whole team at Borough Hall who just helps people resolve issues and everything from housing to immigration. So they're probably going to connect you to someone, right? Because there's only 4 or 5 people down there, and they're not lawyers. And sometimes if you need a lawyer, they're going to connect you to some legal aid of some sort. Yeah, and I also put my email in if anybody would like. Stephanie, I don't know, can this presentation be shared with the people who are?
We're not allowed to share the presentation.
Okay. I think actually I did ask you that before, yeah. But if you have any questions about anything that was on the screen that you didn't get a chance to write down, you can either just ask right now or you can shoot me an email and I'll do my best to get you the information. Any other questions from anyone?
I didn't see your email.
It's jlowell@brooklynbp.nyc.gov. It should be the next to the last chat.
Oh, okay.
Can you scroll down the chat? I can send it again.
Yes.
I will
Thank you.
I will actually be sending everyone who attended the surveys.
Okay.
And so you'll have my
Right.
email then. That'll be right from my email. So you can always email me if you have any questions. I actually am an attorney, but I'm not an immigration attorney. So I'll, but I'll do my best to help you and connect you to any resources. And
Okay, thank you. BP, I found it.
okay, great. And again, really appreciate everyone attending tonight. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for presenting. That was very helpful. It was helpful for me just to learn for myself what's out there, what resources are out there, what the rules are now, because they do change with administrations. And I just want to remind people that on the 11th at 4 p.m. we have the same exact presentation being given in Spanish. If you know anyone who might benefit from that, please let them know. And I will be sending that out to all the people who registered tonight and didn't make it. Perhaps they thought they were registering for the Spanish language one. We'll see. Right? Was there another question?
Yes, you said we cannot share any of these information.
Yeah, I can't share the PowerPoint slides, but the information can be shared. So you can tell your friends and family members that way, or like you can write it down.
And then we can give the number of the email number to them also, JL, well, at Brooklyn BP.
Yep, that's just, I'm
NYC?
the policy director for the Brooklyn Borough President, and I will just connect them to the resources that they need. They can certainly email me and I'll make sure they get connected to the right person.
Okay.
I don't know whether I will be able to help them.
I know. Thank you.
But we'll certainly do our best to get them connected to the right people. So
thank you all so very much.
of course. And please share the information as wide as you'd like. It's just the PowerPoint that can't be shared. That's all. It's not a.
Yes.
Because with the COVID, there are many questions, in our community, the church community, there are questions. So it's good to be able to say something.
Absolutely.
To them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yes, so I'll be sending out a survey to everyone about the presentation. Please take the time and fill it out and get it back to us so we can get it back to NYIC and the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. And it's really helpful for everyone if you can do that. So
We will do that.
thank you so much.
I will do that. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Stephanie, I sent you the list of people who had registered. Do you need anything else tonight?
I think that's it.
Okay.
We're all good. Yeah.
I'll check in with you tomorrow and we can kind of debrief and then we'll talk about the 11th. I know you're not presenting on the 11th, but we can figure out maybe how to get those registrations actually online.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I CC'd you Myra's email too. She's the one facilitating the one next week.
Great. I'll make sure to include her on the email and then I can just take it away with her and DCC you or leave you out of it once you're done. So thank you so much tonight for coming on.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Have a
Good
good night.
night. Take care.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
All right, good night, everyone.
Night.